Published in 2019, The Ancestors Are Smiling is part of the Finding Otto saga that began with that book, also published in 2019. It is a collection of true life stories of 8 Black Americans. The stories begin in 1874 with Otto Sherman Williams, the son of enslaved Africans, a free spirit who ran away at age 15 to become a musician. Readers also meet Reba, who received her high school diploma at age 106, appearing in Essence magazine, and Charles, diagnosed with tuberculosis, a death sentence in 1946, but who through a surprising turn of medical innovation lived to 93. Author Kathy Lynne Marshall calls herself a diversity and inclusion specialist on behalf of our ancestors. Her books and workshops restore the American historical record by adding highly researched accounts of enslaved African Americans. As The Ancestors Are Smiling is about people who lived on and are related to people who lived on slave plantations, the book is in the Black Genealogy Book's plantation-based book section. In publicizing her book, Marshall says, the ancestors prodded her awake one morning when she was 16, saying, write our stories now. She adds that then she realized that if she didn't write books about her family, nobody would. Her life changed dramatically as she began spending hours every day researching her tangled Euro-African lineage. For Marshall is not solely a genealogist. She calls herself a historical detective, giving voice to the forgotten. Through meticulous research and a touch of creative empathy, she unearths the stories of women, African Americans, and other unsung heroes who shaped America. Marshall has written at least 9 books. These include Finding Otto and Finding Daisy in 2019, The Mystery of Margaret Booker in 2020, Ken Anderson and the Marshall Legacy in Black and White in 2021, Finding Marshalls in 2022, Family Harambe in 2023, and Finding Gammy's Secrets in 2025. The dedication to The Ancestors Are Smiling reads as follows. Dedicated to the memory of my formidable ancestors, who provided me with the desire and ability to live my life as freely as I choose. And she names 10 ancestors. From this dedication, we get that Marshall's purpose for writing The Ancestors Are Smiling is to honor and to thank ancestors. The acknowledgments read, although my beloved mother, Mary Ellen Marshall, passed away in 2007, she is always with me in spirit. Her Reflections from a Mother's Heart diary contains first-hand accounts of her childhood and adult life, and was an inspiration for numerous passages in this book. I am indebted to the following family members who provided memories and corrections to many draft versions of this African American genealogy book, including our esteemed family historian and designated genealogist, Myrtle Lavata Williams, the medical pioneer, Charles Williams, and his wife Margaret and son Bob Williams, Dale Carter, Kenora Hogan, Julie Sanders Culpepper, Alonda Gates, Carrie Marshall Melanab, and Greg Marshall. All provided plenty of memories about our ancestors and about their own lives. My sons Isaac and Matthew Anderson and daughter-in-law Jamila Anderson also responded to my probings into their young lives for this book. Many thanks also go to several people who edited portions of this book. My patient and understanding boyfriend, Michael Fitzwater, author Denise Griggs, who wrote Glass Tree Book or of Glass Tree Books, Dr. Deborah Pittman, Professor Emeritus at California State University at Sacramento, genealogist Diana Ross, and author Mary Lou Anderson. From these acknowledgments, we get that Marshall wrote this book because she was fueled by her mother's diary and in order to build upon other family members' work. The introduction reads, "My favorite pastime was to catch fireflies at night during the summer. I would get a glass jar, poke holes in the lid, and catch fireflies that would light up in the jar. I also enjoyed going to our park during each day. It was about a mile away and oh so safe. People simply did not bother you in any bad way. We had swings, slides, tennis court, picnic area, pond, and lots of grass. It was between my house and Grandma's house. Both of these activities I enjoyed with my brothers and sisters. We spent many hours together doing these things. I was probably out there mostly with the boys, since I was a tomboy all the way." That's an excerpt by Mary Ellen Marshall from Reflections from a Mother's Heart. An alarming thought entered my head one day last spring as I found myself starting my 60th year of life. There are only 3 people older than I am in my mother's family, and fewer still in my father's. Soon, I will be the matriarch. If I don't write a book about my ancestors, who will? Now is the time to commemorate the lives of those who have gone before me and those of us still living who are their proud descendants. I have a burning desire to ensure that my family is remembered in a tangible way. This book is a collection of true stories, creatively issued from the mouths of my family members. Some of the conversations are from regular Black folk born in the latter part of the 1800s and 1900s, who led difficult lives in a racially divided America. Other stories describe remarkable successes in highly regarded fields of medicine, education, and engineering. Some tales dance around our family lore that we get mechanical abilities from our enslaved ironworker ancestors. Certainly, tenacity and perseverance have driven my ancestors to ensure that each new generation is better off than the last. As you will learn from the pages in this book, my great-aunt Reba Williams was mentioned on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno and profiled in Essence magazine when she was 106 years young. My great-grandmother Ella Carter worked for Representative Columbus Delano, who helped convince President Lincoln to issue the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863. And that same year, my newly freed second great-grandmother Margaret Booker drove her 5 children in a horse-drawn buckboard from Virginia to freedom in Ohio. But who else knows these interesting tales? The heartwarming, uplifting stories contained in this book illustrate that all lives matter. No matter how rich or poor, uneducated or college educated, whether from middle America or from the southern states or from Golden California. These imagined dialogues by each character as though he or she is talking directly to the reader. The content is based on telephone and personal visit interviews with my elders over the past 4 decades. Letters from those who are now the ancestors. Family history binders, census data, my mother's personal journal, my father's cigar boxes full of sentimental papers and items, 2 biographical photo journal books about my parents compiled in 2014 and 2015. Lots of family photographs and other pertinent documents. My goal is to provide memorable histories in an authentic narrative form that can be passed down not only to the people in my family, but to anyone interested in learning about a resilient family interwoven with the larger events of the day. I hope these personal revelations will resonate with and inspire you to tell your own family stories. Never give up. The ancestors are calling for their tales to be told. From this introduction, we get that Marshall wrote this book because she's running out of time to connect traits to forebears traits, to make histories memorable and authentic, to appeal to readers beyond her own family, and to encourage others to write family histories. Chapter 1 of The Ancestors Are Smiling begins as follows. The clock is ticking away faster and faster now that I'm in my 60th year of life and longevity issues have begun creeping into my thoughts. I've been futzing around with gathering African American family history information since the 1970s, mid-1970s, even before Alex Haley's Roots, the saga of an American family. I have created several three-ring binders filled with printed censuses and other official documents for each of my 6 main family lines: the Williams, Marshalls, Carters, Bookers, Myers, and Dooleys. But what will happen to all those containers full of priceless genealogy information when I'm gone? Nobody can really ferret out what all those documents mean unless they are written in a narrative form that pulls all those different disparate facts together into an interesting story. For example, it is true that my Aunt Lavada was almost kidnapped in Istanbul, Turkey, after a visit to the Holy Land. It is truer still that my father was a real Iron Man who grew up in a funeral home. It is also true that my grandmother Daisy was allegedly the first certified African American mortician before she became a nurse. But who besides my immediate living family will ever know these things? After my birthday in 2016, I began researching how to write interesting histories about my ancestors, utilizing as much data from official sources as possible. Initially, I had 2 main goals in mind. First was to find out about my enslaved second great-grandfather, Otto Williams, who was born in 1834 in Washington County, Maryland. This goal would include utilizing traditional family history research, as well as DNA testing technology to find out about our ethnic heritage. Equally as important, though, was my second goal of commemorating the lives of my ancestors who descended from the slave Otto Williams. I initially decided to dedicate myself entirely to creating one book that would explore both of those lofty goals. No more diddling around with online Scrabble games until I had completed this monumental task. From this first part of Chapter 1, we get some additional reasons Marshall shares for why she wrote "The Ancestors Are Smiling." She repeats that she is running out of time. She adds that she holds and can decipher all the information and is the only one who can do that. She repeats that she wants to appeal to readers beyond her own family, and she wants to answer questions about her great-great-grandfather, and again, she wants to honor ancestors. The introduction continues. On October 1st, 2016, I listened to an online webinar from the Genealogist Writing Room, an organization which encourages African Americans to start writing our own stories instead of letting others write our history for us. They and other sources from genealogy conferences and books stress the importance of starting to write a book by revealing what we already know about our own family. That means writing about myself first. Then I would write stories about my parents, grandparents, and so forth. Even though I may never find out answers to all of my questions, I need to start writing now. Those genealogy sources indicated it would be acceptable to simply acknowledge that some unknowns might have to be researched at a future date. Start writing now has become my mantra. I finally understood how to begin this monumental project, and I feel a strong assurance that I will be successful this time. The ancestors want their stories to be told, and they want me to complete this inspirational writing journey now. Once I understood that, the words began to flow from my excited brain through my fingertips and onto my laptop computer. I am finding it easy to create an outline for the book, including about 50 questions about my enslaved ancestor, such as, who was Otto Williams? Where did he live? Who were his parents and his slave owner? What daily duties did he perform? Did he fight in the Civil War? Was he successful after slavery? So many questions had to be researched and answered, hopefully, definitively. Early into this process, I wrote an initial introduction stating what I intended to do. I had read that it can be effective to write the book as we are making discoveries, so the reader can share in our exciting finds and disappointments as the research progresses. It is motivating to know your book is actually being written. That is the tactic I am taking for this project. The first month, I wrote feverishly about my immediate family's upbringing. I am fortunate enough to have my mother, Mary Ellen Marshall's personal journal entitled Reflections from a Mother's Heart. That means I can share heartwarming details about her childhood in Ohio, her marriage to my father, her job as a teacher and principal in California, and her thriving watercolor art business during her retirement years. This wealth of information, which came directly from her memories, allows me to write her story using her own words in her own voice. I also have a few letters from my grandmothers and uncles from 40 years ago, containing some important family history information. Since 2006, I have been inputting official census and other documents into my Ancestry.com online family tree, including relatives as far back as the end of slavery. So I have a lot of data to help write these nonfiction memoirs and accounts. By the end of the second month of nonstop composing, I have nearly 90 pages of narratives and photographs and charts. I sent a copy of that first draft to Myrtle Lovato Williams. Technically, she's my first cousin once removed, but I call her Aunt. Aunt Lovato is not only the great-granddaughter of the slave I am investigating, but also our beloved family historian. Aunt Lovato sent me back pages of typed feedback, corrections, and additional stories. her first-hand accounts of living with my great-grandparents Otto Sherman Williams and Myrtle Booker Williams, as well as her mother, Reba Williams, were invaluable for the 16 people lived in my house and a superstar at 106, as well as the designated genealogist chapters in this book. All of these references and resources have been carefully incorporated to develop stories that seem to come directly from the mouths of my formidable ancestors. As I write every page, I can hear them talking to me, saying, "No, write it this way," or "Yes, that's exactly how it was." From this part of Marshall's introduction, we get that she wrote this book to tell her family stories in a preferred, uplifting way, that it is done to fulfill ancestors' desires and to have ancestors speak directly to readers. So from author Kathy Lynne Marshall and the book The Ancestors Are Smiling, we get at least 14 reasons why we write Black genealogies, ranging from to honor and thank ancestors, to fulfill our ancestors' desire and our own desire to have ancestors speak directly to readers. Next, see authors' own words for why we write Black genealogies by taking a look at what the authors of the book Back There Then have to say about why they wrote a Black family heritage book.